Hello everybody and welcome to Forever Rugby on Forever Sports, and the Pumas have just beaten the Cheetahs 22 points to 15 at the Mbombela Stadium in Nelspruit. What a performance by Jimmy Stonehouse's men, and really deserved. And for the Cheetahs, an opportunity, what was an opportunity for them to go and, they would like to try and run in a few tries, and put in a really nice big performance, try and play some expansive rugby. They were pretty poor, to be honest, and I think that overall, the first half we saw a really poor, tight sort of affair. Lots and lots of penalties. Look, it was a penalty sort of game across the board, to be honest. Lots and lots of penalties. Discipline was very poor. But at least in the second half, we started to see a bit of running rugby. We started to see it open up a little bit. And Eddie Fouche, take a bow. He scored all 22 points of the match. And he also got timed out for a kick, which is quite interesting. That whole kick clock came into play. But before we break down the game, please do subscribe to the channel. Bottom right hand corner there, smash a like on the video as well. Let me know what you thought of the game. It was quite enjoyable. I thought it was a much better second half. But yeah, so we look at the first half. The first sort of 10 to 20 minutes for me were kind of marred just by scrum resets, and it's such a big problem. And we're talking about the fact that Rassie Erasmus and SA Rugby are trying to find ways to try and ensure that we get more actual game time during the matches, that playing time, that we're actually not, in an 80-minute game, we're actually playing rugby for, 40 to 50 minutes, which has not been the case. I mean, there have been matches where less than half an hour of rugby is actually being played, which is a problem. And so, it wasn't great in that sort of respect in the first sort of 20 minutes, because we saw a lot of scrums being reset, a lot of issues at scrum time. And both sides had opportunities, and it kind of sort of, it kind of took it in turns, it was sort of when Pumas for 10 minutes, then Cheetahs for 10 minutes. But the Pumas just weren't clinical in the first half. And ironically, the Cheetahs then had the same issue in the second half. In the first half, I mean, the Pumas only lost about 4 lineouts and some key lineouts. There was a vital steal by Carl Wechner in about sort of the 20 minutes mark, or maybe even before that, about 15, where the Pumas were right on the 5 meter. And as they went up, as the ball went over, Carl Wechner went straight up and said, "Thank you very much." So Simon Vestrad really struggled. But then, even when Abraham LaRue came on, same sort of issues there. So Puma's lineup didn't function particularly well, which is a big concern for them. The Cheetahs lineup was much better. Scrums were just pretty poor the entire game, really. It wasn't a particularly good advert for the scrums. What I thought there was a very good advert for, though, was in the 31st minute, there was a TMO check. And it was Etienne Talliard on Sekikete, and it was a tackle where he walked, and where he went into the tackle, trying to hand off, and his elbow slipped up, and Sekikete was quite upright in the tackle, and it looked like there was a bit of a collision of heads. And they looked at it, and between Amy Barrett-Turon and Stuart Berry, they said that he was happy with it being a handoff and not being an elbow to the face, and he said that he was quite happy with the player, despite being quite upright, and despite there looking like there was a collision, that there was no foul play involved, and there was no illegal play. And I think that is a very good case of the sort of standard we need to sort of expect, where that in the last couple of months, we've seen yellow cards given for both situations, both the handoff and the sort of high tackle. We still saw 2 yellow cards this game, and I think, maybe you could have looked at Morgan Diaz's yellow card and been like, but, I thought the yellow card to Chris Smith was justified. He was slowing down play. So I thought it was much better in terms of just the way that they spoke about the process. It wasn't a case of we've got a head-on-head collision, we're going to start with a red, let's work down. They literally just looked at the incident and said, this is what we're seeing. We don't think there's any intent. It wasn't dangerous, despite there being a clash. So we're just going to move on with a bit of a penalty for what was before. So that is what we need to see. More of that, and not just always going to the bin and always sending people away, which is what we've been seeing the entire sort of the last few months. In the 39 minute, we saw Eddie Fouche having his shot clock timed out. The first time we've seen it, the whole having a shot clock, which counts down the time that you have to take the lot to kick, and he ran out of time, and Stuart Berry was on the money. As it hit 0, he said, "Nope, that's it, you've had your time," which is another big sort of innovation from Rassie Erasmus and SA Rugby. So it was quite cool to see that in action. Cheetahs in the first half, 8 penalties conceded, just not good enough, and to their credit, had an opportunity before half time to try and hit back with a penalty, and they kicked it straight into touch. It wasn't the first time. Ruan Pina did it as well in the second half. So I think clinical-wise, that was the issue with Cheetahs. They had the opportunities, but they just weren't clinical enough. And that showed in the final minute when Roscoe Speckman had a brilliant turnover, ran more or less the length of the field, And then seeing Rayner Smith out wide, trying to find a very big pass, and Rayner Smith knocking it on. Pumas scrum, and they kicked it out. But there were some very good moments. I thought the try was particularly good by the Pumas. Some very, very good work by the replacements. Ginter Smuts came on and made a big difference there. I thought it was quite nice. Just a nicely worked try before Eddie Fouche, rightly, who I thought was very good the entire game, went over. So the other big moments, Rayner Smith with a 50-meter drop goal out of nowhere. I don't think anybody expected that. That was particularly impressive. I thought Peter Jansen was quite good. Captaincy-wise, spoke to Stuart Berry quite nicely, asked for time, and I think that, although the Pumas had quite a lot of string of penalties in the sort of second half, he was quite good at sort of just being able to say, when they were under pressure, can I take a moment, sort of reset, and they did reset very well and then defend it. So I thought he handled the game very, very well. Other big performances, I thought Opa Mohoja was pretty good. Chris Wasserten before he went up was quite good. Ali Ngujina was a bit quiet. We've seen a lot from him, but I thought that Billy Engelbrecht was everywhere. Francois Clemens was also quite good. Hardenisi was industrious, tried really hard. France Saint-Slot had a fantastic kick when he came on. But yeah, it was a bit of a messy game. It got better as the game went on, and we did see some very nice moments, but probably would have liked to have seen less knock-ons, less scrums, because they're particularly bad. Line-out-wise, the Cheetahs line-out worked pretty well. The Pumas line-out wasn't working particularly well, and Jimmy Stone will even say he doesn't understand why they keep going towards the line and keep trying the driving more. It just wasn't working for them. So line-outs are the big thing that Pumas will want to work on. However, I think after that result, Jimmy Stonehouse is not going to want to work on anything. He's going to want to sit there and sink a few beers and say, fantastic, I just beat the Cheetahs, because it was a huge result for them. They've been waiting for a win like this. I was saying during Carling Currie Cup that they've had performances that have deserved a victory against the big side. You remember that the game against the Western Province, when they were all over the Western Province and then let them come back. I think it was actually against the Stormers in Super Rugby Unlocked. They've had these performances, but they haven't been able to do it for 80 minutes. You've been waiting for that 80-minute performance by the Pumas, and we finally saw that today. So a brilliant result for them. For Cheetahs, it's back to the drawing board, and that'll be quite disappointing, because I think when you go to a team like the Pumas, you do make a couple of changes, but you do think this is where we can try and maybe experiment a little bit, or polish off things, or try and be a bit different, try and be quite positive and try and score lots of tries, but they just weren't clinical enough. They couldn't convert their opportunities into points. All their points came from penalties. There were a lot of penalties being kicked. So yeah, I wouldn't say it was free-flowing attacking rugby and brilliant on the eye, but it was a very tight encounter and a very interesting encounter. And that's the main thing. We now have the Bulls up against the Stormers tonight. It should be an absolute cracker. Make sure you keep it locked on Forever Sports. We will have a review shortly after the game, so make sure you keep it locked on Forever Sports. Do subscribe, do smash a like. My name is Steven, and as always, I will chat to you very soon.